Hello everyone, and I want to start off this video by saying how mad I am at myself that I didn't make a video saying how I knew that Clemson was going to beat, or that Notre Dame was going to beat Clemson, and B, that I didn't bet any money on it because I could have told you it was going to happen. Clemson always tends to lose this week. This Notre Dame game was the same week that they lost 2 years ago in that overtime that game. At least they put up a fight that time. And off buys, Clemson has been pretty bad in the Dabo era. But besides those little superstitions there, the point I want to make in this video is that the Clemson era, the Clemson dominance in the ACC, I think it is dead. You have teams like UNC that are coming, quarterbacks like Drake May, Devin Leary, NC State, Sam Hartman, Wake Forest. They're going to take over this conference if Clemson and Dabo do not change their philosophies. I'm blaming this Notre Dame loss fully on Dabo Swinney. And for a matter of fact, they probably should have lost the Syracuse game. There's some questionable calls in that. And by the way, I said Notre Dame was going to beat Clemson because I had to work the Syracuse football game. That's what my team does for fundraiser. They're playing Notre Dame that weekend. I said if Notre Dame beats Clemson, or if Notre Dame beats Syracuse in Syracuse while Clemson had a bye, Notre Dame's going to then go on to beat Clemson at home the following week. And that is exactly what happened. I'm mad at myself for not putting it publicly, but it is what it is. So back to Clemson, Dabo Swinney. I'm blaming this Notre Dame loss purely on him. For starters, he's got this whole Clemson family thing, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. He's got this whole Clemson family brand built with Venables and having his kids play on the team, having Venables' kids be on the team. It was really cool to see. When they're winning, it was great. But at this point, now you're just being ignorant. He refuses to take transfers, and I don't get it. Like, a lot of times you see families, they go out and adopt kids. That's what the transfer portal is. Sometimes you gotta do it, and you see these Power 5 schools, especially with the immediate eligibility, guys are doing it and making impacts right away. Imagine if Clemson was able to go out and snag Jordan Addison in the transfer portal and add a real wide receiver one, because that kid is a stud. So that's my first issue with Dabo, and my second issue is, how do you sit on the sidelines watching your team struggle to beat Syracuse, a game that you probably should have lost, mainly because DJ struggled, and you put Cade Klubnik in, he balls out, gets you the win, keeps the undefeated season alive, keeps your dreams of going to the college football playoff and potentially winning that championship, although it wasn't going to happen if you had watched them so far this season. You have Cade Klubnik come in and save all of that, and then you don't start him the Notre Dame game. You could have given him a whole bye week of practice as the number one, get that in his head, and he could become the starter. Maybe I don't know. Maybe DJ balls out in practice and Cade Klubnik doesn't. But the kid played amazing. The reason I have this video is mainly this entire Syracuse game is because you see Cade Klubnik in the second half. He plays with so much heart that DJ doesn't. And I like DJ. He's a really talented quarterback, and I think they're using him wrong, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the way Cade Klubnik played versus the way DJ played, with that fumble that DJ allowed, and just some of the throws he was making, they probably should have went to Klubnik earlier, but B, how do you not start him the next game? The kid played amazing. He's running around. He gets out of the pocket. DJ's biggest flaw, in my opinion, is he stands in the pocket too much. You see him take a lot of blindside hits, and it's a wonder that his fumble came from a zone read and not just getting hit from around the edge. As you see, he loves to stand there in the pocket. I don't know how many sacks he took in this game, but it's too many is the answer. Back to my reasoning and my other issues with Clemson is they don't have any elite receivers. You saw, as good as Trevor Lawrence was, as good as Deshaun Watson was, and as good as the receivers helped make those teams. They had Kelly Bryant, and they had him go to the playoffs because of how good the receivers were. They had Kelly Bryant as a thrower, and the receivers were so good at the playoffs. I used to make arguments that Clemson's wide receiver university, from the studs they have in the NFL, like DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins at the time. And you had Justin Ross, who is a shame he had his neck injuries, but T. Higgins, those guys were studs, and now you don't have any of those elite receivers to make things happen. You had Hunter Renfrow as well. That was just third down, you find Renfrow. Those guys really helped Clemson through their era, because I'm pretty much calling it over now. They got to get these big wide receivers back. Like, imagine if they had Jordan Addison. You could just hit him with a screen and stuff like that and make things happen, where it doesn't have to be all on the quarterback. But as far as DJ goes, he's definitely not as talented as Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson was. And the same thing with Cade Klubnik, as you can't just do the same thing. It's like, oh, this guy's a starter, and if it doesn't work, we'll go to Trevor Lawrence, like they did with Kelly Bryant for a little bit, and it saved him in that Texas A&M game all the way back. Like that, Cade Klubnik is really good, but he's not as good of a prospect Trevor Lawrence was. Trevor Lawrence is a once-in-a-lifetime prospect, and you kind of can't do the same system and hope it works. It's a different situation. It's got to be treated differently. They're also different quarterbacks, so you can't just run the same system and have him in. DJ's a bigger quarterback. You do zones reads like this with him. He's not beating people with speed. He's beating people with power. So he's just gonna think, all right, can I get 5 yards, and then lower my shoulder and turn that 5 into 7. But you have him make plays like this fumble that put you in a chance to lose the game. Because the defense played great. Defense been good for a while. I watched that Clemson Georgia game at the beginning of last season and thought they could be good if they just figure out the offense, because the defense is still elite. I know they don't have the numbers to represent it because they've struggled in games this year, like the Wake Forest game, to point out, and the offense and DJ stepped up that game. But they still have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. KJ Henry, Brian Mazzee, a lot of talent still there. I know they lost Venables, but even with the game last year, like, they're not that bad of a team. They just got to put it all together. Another issue I have is the way they use DJ. He's a big guy. He can probably throw the ball 60, 65 yards. I don't know, but they don't have him aired out. You get a one-on-one on your left side. Just tell him, hey, I don't unless something's wide open over the middle, I just want you throwing a deep ball. You get a pass interference call maybe. I know it's not a spot foul, but we see a huge pass interference call later in the game that led to the Clemson field goal to make it 27-21. That was off a Cade Klubnik throw, not a DJ throw. You got Joseph Ngata on the sidelines. He's got decent speed. I don't really know who Syracuse has in the secondary, but you played a lot of teams where I haven't seen many deep balls this year. I want to see is just maybe from the slot, you run a wheel route with a little rub on a slant, something like that, just to throw it up there. DJ's got the arm. Have him chuck one, throw a ball your receiver can run under, give a guy a chance to make a play. You see him try to do that later on, and that's end up being the pick that gets him benched as he just throws it too high. I think it was a throw for the tight end that time, but like, you got to be throwing it for your number one receiver on a deep ball. Like, if you overthrow it, it's an incomplete pass. The only way a pass like that's getting picked off is either A, the DB makes an amazing play, or B, you underthrow the ball. You can't be having these throws where you overthrow it, it's a pick. Got to be taking these shots where you just throw the deep ball, and if you overthrow it, it's an incomplete pass, or you put on the money and your guy gets it. That's the only two options. It may not work. You may go 0 for 7 one game, but it's the chances, and you know it's not a turnover. And they had too many turnovers this game that didn't let the points. In the Notre Dame game, they didn't take enough chances. DJ got sacked too many times. They did not come anywhere close towards winning the field position battle. Like, your drive starts at the 5, you get one first down, you're punting from the 17. The other team starts with the ball at the 40. That's what's happening in the Notre Dame game. You got to at least get a drive to where you can flip the field and give your defense a chance to pin them deep. Have a Notre Dame drive start at their own 3 because you had a good special teams play. That's going to make it a lot harder for them to score. And stuff like that, like the little things like that we're used to watching Clemson football and Dabo Swinney dominate. There's that pick right there. I have no answers to that throw. Perfect reason to put Cade Klubnik in right there. But they just do things that's like, maybe this guy isn't a better coach than the guy on the other sideline. We saw him do things in the past where he's out coaching guys like Nick Saban. Like that national championship game, I know the one year Saban got him with the just running that same wheel route to O.J. Howard, but the year they won the championship, that Watson the run for play, it was a great drive led by the coaching staff, and obviously the players making plays on the fields. But the coaching staff did great, and you look at them this year, and even the last year it hasn't been the same. It's beginning to be the end of the Clemson era, and I don't really know what DJ's problem is as to why he's not playing with the same passion that Cade Klubnik is. But if you just watch this guy play, if you'd watch this game, you just see it. Like, how do you not want that guy to be a starter? Because you can't tell me that the guys in the locker room that aren't playing for this kid the way he's putting up the energy. Like, if you're playing a receiver, you see your quarterback take hits like this, get up and start screaming in defender's face, get up and do stuff like that. How are you not going to try harder? He's earning penalties just by his pure effort. Get that late hit out of bounds, get an unnecessary roughness call, and I'm giving him the credit for this comeback, which kept their season alive for 2 more weeks because they had the bye, and then they blew it to Notre Dame by not giving the chance. Then in that Notre Dame game, you take DJ out, you bench him for Cade Klubnik with a minute left in the third quarter, and he throws a pick, and then he's done for the rest of the game. Like, I get it, he threw a pretty bad pick, but A, you got to give him a chance earlier. You gave him a chance about 4 minutes earlier in this game, and he did great for you. B, and you did that last game, so if anything, the benching of DJ should come earlier in the Notre Dame game, and give him more of a shot. Like, what did benching DJ for a possession and going back to him, was that going to make a spark? Is that going to do anything at that point? Like, as soon as they put DJ back in, I had lost all hope. I mean, with the Klubnik coming in, maybe he has a spark, maybe something happens, but once you go back to the guy you benched, that's pretty much throwing in your surrender flag. Like, think about it in a term of another sport. If somebody comes off the bench because somebody gets benched for their performance in like, not, I'm not gonna say basketball, but a sport where the guy plays the the whole game. Like, let's say your shortstop has a rough stretch, you bench him, kid comes in, your rookie shortstop comes in, plays amazing. Like when the Yankees were yelling at Isaiah Kiner Falefa, all their fans are booing him. He made some bad plays. You bring in the rookie, he plays well. You don't go back to IKF the next game. If they brought in Oswaldo Peraza or Oswaldo Cabrera, if they had put in one of those guys in and they played amazing, hit a home run in a playoff game, if they gave them the opportunity, you wouldn't go back to IKF for Game 4, which ended up being the end of their season. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's the example I'm going to use here. I feel like that's a close enough situation. If a guy comes in and wins you a ball game, you don't go back to the guy that you had to pull and put the guy in to win you the ball. You don't put the guy that put you in this position to lose. You go to the guy that won you the game. It's just it didn't make sense to me, and it's just these little coaching mistakes. They're costing them games. They're making games harder for them to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and lose to Louisville. It's they're just not as good of a team, not as dominant. Their recruiting classes haven't been as good, and it sucks to see because personally I'm a Clemson fan, but it's pretty clear to point blame. You can't point it at DJ. Kid did his best. You got to point on the coaching staff. I don't think they're using DJ right. They definitely didn't use Cade Klubnik right in this situation against the Notre Dame game, and it's just things haven't been the same. The small decisions, and it's just I think it's time that the Clemson era has come to an end.